you're going to be very disappointed. But for the rest of you, I'll just say I'm sorry, and you can eat a few grapes for me, and hopefully that'll make things all better. The septet is very unique because it was written for a combination of instruments that had not really been used as a standard form in the genre. So we have 2 violins, that's not too unusual. He wrote for 2 natural French horns, a natural French horn in the key of E flat. That is the key that the piece is written in. We didn't have any of those lying around, and I'll talk about that here in just a moment. But then he had clarinet, which was a relatively new instrument at the time that he wrote this piece, and then viola and cello, rounding out the string section there. We don't really have a lot of details about this piece. When it was first performed, who it was first performed for. There's some references to it. It was also repurposed by the composer for another piece as a string quintet. It's a very easy way to make a little bit extra money. You write a piece one way, no one buys it, take it, write it for some different instruments, resell it, works well. Saves you a little bit of the effort there on writing, coming up with creative ideas. When Peter von Winter died, he was praised as the composer of his generation. In fact, his employer, who was a nobleman in Germany, was reported to have taken out a 25-page obituary to talk about all of his accomplishments, achievements. I don't know about you, but that seems a little excessive. I don't know if you'll be able to find 25 pages about me. Anyway, 25 pages, and that's a rumor. I haven't been able to confirm. I have not been able to find any copies of the obituary. I would share some of that with you here. I'm sure it had some flowery language and extra double spaces and all of those fun things that we know to do. Before we get into the piece, I just want to ask you one question here. So we're thinking the theme tonight is Reimagined Masterworks, and I think you'll find this piece is an amazing piece of music of the classical music genre. And why do composers get forgotten? Because at the time, again, that he died, a 25-page obituary, Mozart was buried in a pauper's grave. It was very low-key. He had no money, very few friends, and we still don't exactly know where Mozart was buried. But Pierre, I wonder, got all these accolades and no one. How many of you, let me ask you this, how many of you before coming tonight and before seeing any of our advertisements on Facebook had heard of Peter von Winter? About 5. Okay, so why is it that some composers are forgotten and why other ones seem to survive? And that's a complicated question. We're not going to be able to answer that unless you want to be here for a really long time. I will say this, though. It's interesting because sometimes it's time and place, the situation. It's who the music was written for. If it was written specifically for a patron, sometimes it wasn't published or made generally available to the public, so they didn't know about it. And so then the composer's name kind of faded. There's many reasons that can happen, but one of the things that we like to do at Serenity is bring pieces back a little bit for you. So tonight we're going to be playing 3 movements from the septet, the Allegro, the Adagio, and the Minuetto. Now, I mentioned that we didn't have the natural horns, and I'll just say this. What we have instead are alto clarinets, which are also in the key of E flat. They sound pretty good. So that's what we have over here. We have 2 alto clarinets. Now, you say, when are we going to play music? Very shortly. I have one more thing that I do want to say is that as I want to introduce to you guys our ensemble very quickly, just so you know what everyone is playing. And I thought the easiest way to do that is by telling you a joke about their instrument. So I'm going to tell you, and including my own. So later on, we're going to hear the piano. Obviously, hopefully, most of you know what a piano is. It's over there in the corner there. If you don't, that's the piano, the big brown thing over there. Why are pianists' fingers like lightning? They rarely strike the same place twice. Okay. I'm a dad now, so I can get away with these, I was told. So, all right. Then we have our violin players. Now, we'll have a few more join us for the second half of the piece. We have 4 violin players, 5 violin players with the group here tonight. How can you tell if a violin is out of tune? The bow is moving. Yes. So our violin players for this piece are Meg and Maki Kojima. Sitting next to them is my beloved father, Doug Perkins, and my beloved brother, Alec Perkins, playing the alto clarinets. Now, I'm going to tell you this. I couldn't find any jokes about the alto clarinets. And the reason for that is because their significance is very small. So I think that is the actual joke in and of itself. I couldn't write one better than that, so we just left it there. So, and then next to my brother, we have Mr. Kengo Kojima. He's playing the cello. Kengo has played with us in ensembles before, but this is his first time playing with us in a little bit more of an exposed role. We also have another cellist who will be playing with us in a little bit. What do you call 10 cellos at the bottom of the ocean? A good start. Yes, that is correct. That one has been more circulated, I guess. And then we have the viola, played by Mr. Kuz Kojima. We also have Ms. Naoko Kojima, who plays viola with us. How is a viola like a lawsuit? Everyone's happy when the case is closed. So that, I know. We had a presentation a couple week or so ago where we went through a lot of viola jokes. So that was one that was not in that presentation. In the Dvorak, you will hear the timpani being played. That's what these two percussion instruments. We also have a cymbal. I didn't have any jokes about the cymbal. It plays a very minor part. But the timpani, I don't exactly have a joke, but I have a quote. Marriage is like playing the timpani. It looks easy until you try it. And I can attest to that. And then lastly, we have the clarinet, and I'll be playing that here this evening. How do you get $1 million playing clarinet? Start off with $2 million. That's how you do it. So, all right, now that we've got that all introduced, we're going to go ahead and play for you the septet, selections from the septet by Peter von Winter. We will pause momentarily between movements. If you are feeling so generous as you would like to give some applause, we'd ask you to withhold it till the end of the third selection. So thank you very much. All right, we are at our intermission. We'll come back in about 15 minutes, and we will play the piece that I'm sure most of you are here to listen to, and that's Dvorak's New World Symphony. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. All right, welcome back to the second half of our program here. Looks like we retained most of the first half crowd, which is always our goal. We didn't scare you off too badly. Hope you enjoyed the first part so far. I hope you've enjoyed the food. I would like to give a special shout out tonight on the food front to my lovely mother, Mrs. Diane Perkins, and to Miss Linda Lepner, who put together the food for this evening. They did a lovely job, so I appreciate that. The reason you say, why do you have food at your concerts? And I said, well, because then we can go longer. But that's not truly the reason. The reality is that we want to be a little bit different than most concert experiences you may go to. And our goal is so that you would relax and enjoy the evening. So we like to have food available. You are welcome to eat throughout the performance. All that I would ask, there's two things that I ask. First is, if you're in the front rows here, you can go get food over there. Just realize that the people in the tables may throw food at you if you get up and go get the food. So just realize that may happen. I would also say this, if you are a child, and we're defining child as under 13, please do not get up in the middle of the concert and start scrounging for food. We would appreciate that. Stay in your seat. There's food around, and there will be food available after the program as well. We are performing tonight an arrangement of a beloved piece, and this arrangement was specially commissioned for our group to perform for you tonight. So you have never heard it like this before. And it is Dvorak's New World Symphony, the Symphony number 9 in E minor. Dvorak is one of my favorite composers to listen to and just enjoy, to sit back and not have to think too hard, but also be able to realize that there is great complexity and depth in the writing, but it's accessible to everyone. I think that's the mark of a master craftsman, is able to take something that is not oversimplified, but yet is able to be understood by all. Dvorak was born in 1841, born in Czechoslovakia. He was sort of discovered by the great composer Johannes Brahms, and Brahms was a champion of his entire life. And Dvorak got this kind of acclaim across Europe and even into America. He was invited to become the director of the National Conservatory of Music in New York, and he went there with his family in 1892. He was paid a whopping salary at the time of $15,000 a year, which was pretty significant money. So he made the long trip. He immigrated to America for about 4 years while he had that post. While he was in America, he was inspired by our folk music. And one of the things you have to understand about Dvorak is that he is what's called a nationalist composer. He would take the music from the countryside and from the common person and rewrite it, rearrange it into this beautiful orchestral symphonic production, so that if you were the average Joe Schmo going to a concert, you would hear tunes that you're like, hey, that's kind of familiar. That sounds like this. And sure enough, that's what it was, right? It sounds like a song that you used to sing back home, right? We all have those kind of folk songs to think, oh, Suzanne or something. So imagine if you went to a symphony concert and we're all up here and everybody's looking sharp and everything, and all of a sudden the do-do-do-do-do-do-do, and you're like, oh, I know that. That's not what I was expecting. That's basically what a nationalist composer in a nutshell is doing, is they're taking things that are from their native country and bringing it out in a symphonic way that is accessible to all and gives it a different feel and a different light. So imagine a guy like that who's taking all these folk songs from his native Czechoslovakia. He comes to America and he hears the music, the spirituals and the Native American music, and he says, wow, that's really inspiring. He sits down and he says, I'm going to write a symphony that is based on these themes that I am hearing and collecting. And he was able to do something that few American composers have been able to do in capturing the spirit of American music at that time and the history there and everything that goes into that. This symphony, I'm going to warn you right now, it's going to take us a little bit of time to get through it. There are 4 movements. We're playing all of them. The first movement starts very softly. It quickly gets kind of fiery, and then there's always drive all the way to the end of the movement. It's a very powerful conclusion. It goes into a second movement that is the exact opposite. And it's probably the one that most of you, even if you're not a classical music nerd like myself, you would probably know the melody from the second movement, the Largo. It is absolutely breathtaking to listen to, and it's a gorgeous setting. In fact, a lot of people believe wrongfully that was taken from a spiritual and implemented by Dvorak into his music. After all, that's something he would do. He actually wrote that melody on his own, and it was then taken and made into spirituals. Isn't that interesting? It went the other way around. So you write something so good that goes the other way. That's pretty incredible. So then there's a third movement that I think you will notice a homage to the Native American folk music. And then the final movement brings us to a rousing, exciting conclusion. I'm going to say, before we play it, like I said, this is a little bit of a lengthy piece. We will pause between each movement because we need a little bit of a break. This was originally written for an orchestra that would be about 100 players. We've got about 10 of them. So there's not a lot of breaks. There's not a lot of pauses. The piece goes on. So between movements, feel free to, take another bite of something, pour yourself a glass of water, whatever it needs. We're going to relax and not rush it. We're going to enjoy the performance ourselves as musicians. Don't feel odd by that silence. That's not a bad thing. All right. So we hope you enjoy it. I will just say also on the back table as you're leaving tonight, we have a donation box. The Serenity Chamber Players is 100% free concerts. We don't charge, and our goal is to never do that. Our goal is to provide free classical music for the community. This is just something that we enjoy doing. If you would like to partner with us through your donation to help us commission our next reimagined masterwork, to take something and bring it to you next year, feel free to visit the donation box, and there's instructions out there on what to do. I'll leave it to the instruction sheet. So without further ado, Dvorak's New World Symphony.